This is Matador News, and these are today's headlines. The French government will suspend the gas tax after ongoing protests turned violent over the weekend. Mourners pay their respects to former President George H.W. Bush at the U.S. Capitol. And sports teams across the country honored Bush with a moment of silence before their games.
Hello and welcome to Matador News. I'm Jide Akinpelu.
And I'm Alan Cardoza.
President George H.W. Bush, who passed last Friday at the age of 94, lies in state in Washington, D.C. today. Former President Bush will be remembered at a state funeral at the National Cathedral tomorrow as the nation observes a national day of mourning. During tomorrow's day of mourning, all federal offices will be closed. No mail will be delivered and the stock market will be closed. A second funeral is scheduled to take place in Texas.
President Bush becomes the 32nd American to lie in state in the United States Capitol Rotunda. Soon, Americans from every corner of the country and every walk of life will make their way to this rotunda to pay the respects of a grateful nation.
The president's final resting place will be next to his late wife, Barbara, at the George Bush Presidential Library and Museum in Texas.
The government of France has announced a 6-month suspension of fuel price hikes after ongoing protests turned violent over the weekend. The displeasure over the rising costs of gas and diesel fuel are now turning into protests against President Emmanuel Macron's government, exposing tensions between the elite and the poor. This is the most severe political crisis Macron has dealt with since he took office 19 months ago. The riots are being dubbed the Yellow Vest Movement. More than 600 people have been injured, over 400 arrested, and at least 2 are dead after protesters vandalized schools and statues across the country.
Congress will delay the government shutdown deadline from this Friday to December 21st. Washington has been overwhelmed by the funeral of President George H.W. Bush, and lawmakers have yet to resolve funding issues for border security. President Trump says he would absolutely consider passing an extension because of President Bush's passing. President Trump has also repeatedly said he might veto the spending bill Congress proposed for border security unless it includes the $5 billion he wants for his wall. Democratic congressional leaders Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are scheduled to meet with Trump a week from today.
The Los Angeles City Council is voting today on a proposal to ban plastic straws. A citywide straws on request ordinance could be implemented by next year. Also discussing the potential ban is County Board of Supervisors. The City Council is also deciding if there should be a complete ban by 2021. The Los Angeles Times reports 500 million plastic beverage straws are discarded each day in America. Governor Brown has already signed a bill banning fast food restaurants from giving out plastic straws. Malibu, Santa Monica, and Manhattan Beach have already banned plastic straws.
And now here's Matador News reporter Kenia Arevalo in the newsroom with reactions from CSUN community members on the recent plastic ban.
Thank you, Jide. This is an environmental issue. According to the National Park Service, Americans use an estimated 500 million drinking straws every day. The recent proposal to ban plastic straws would prohibit restaurants from handing out the straws, which would make them available to customers only by request. I talked to CSUN marine biology student David Aguilera about the ban.
So the issue with plastic straws and just single-use plastics in general is that they're accumulating in the ocean and they're creating huge piles of trash. And the plastic doesn't really degrade, and it turns into microplastics, which fish eat, and then in turn the fish that we eat, and all the plastic is getting into our body, and which comes with a bunch of health issues.
CSUN students also had some opinions in regards to this.
I think it's a good idea because we waste a lot of plastic without even knowing it, even though that will kind of make it inconvenient. If you're at a restaurant and you want a straw, then they banned it. Yeah.
I feel like people will be upset at first, but then people will get used to it after a while.
I think it would make a difference because it would kind of stop pollution and stop hurting the environment. So if if more schools and like the whole world kind of does it, I think it like help the environment.
If the City Council approves the ban, it will go into effect starting January 1st. Now back to Alan in the newsroom with the update on the Russian investigation.
The Office of U.S. Special Counsel Robert Mueller is set to make a sentencing recommendation for former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn today. Details of Flynn's role in the Russian probe may also be in the memo. Flynn pled guilty in December 2017. He had held his post at the White House for only 24 days. He admitted lying to the FBI about conversations he had with then Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. He is the only member of the Trump White House administration to have admitted to a crime in Mueller's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election and possible collusion between the Russian government and the Trump campaign. He is scheduled to be sentenced December 18th.
A Maryland woman was stabbed to death while lending a helping hand at an intersection. Police say Jacqueline Smith was driving by a homeless woman who had looked what to be a baby. The woman held a sign saying, "Help me feed my baby." When Smith started to give the woman money, a man approached. Smith's husband was driving the car.
My wife just felt moved to give her something. So at the stop sign, she waved her over to come on over to the car, and then out of nowhere, some guy came over while walking with her. And I hit my window, and Jacqueline went to hand the money out, and the guy just leaned over and said, "Can I thank your wife?" And I said, "You can thank my wife." And within that split second, this guy commenced to stabbing my wife.
Baltimore police handed out flyers in the neighborhood for a plea for information. Police say the woman was in her 20s and the man was in his 30s.
A man and woman have been found dead inside a home in Baldwin Park. Los Angeles police say the two were killed just after 5 this morning. The identities of the man and the woman are not yet known. Neighbors are reportedly saying a woman and her son had moved into the house a few months ago.
CIA Director Gina Haspel briefed selected senators about Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi's murder this morning. She had been absent from last week's briefing with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Defense Secretary Jim Mattis. Now the CIA is saying agents found new evidence of exchange of messages between Khashoggi and Saud al-Khatini, a Saudi official who is prime suspect in the murder. The new evidence further solidifies Prince Mohammed bin Salman's involvement in the murders. Khatani is known to be one of the prince's closest advisors. This morning's briefing was a closed meeting, but senators who were there suggest it will lead to a debate about the U.S. support for Saudi government and its military campaign in Yemen.
Now let's go to Justin Vigil for health news.
Thanks, Alan. More than 5.1 million pounds of raw beef have been recalled after reports it may have been tainted with salmonella. The recalled beef was produced and packaged somewhere between July 26th and September 7th and has been distributed nationwide. The affected brands include Kroger, Cedar River Farms, Grass Run Farms, and JBS Generic. The recalled beef is linked to an outbreak of salmonella that has been made 246 people sick in 25 states since mid-November. 56 people have been hospitalized. A new study has revealed a possible link between the month of August and ADHD. The New England Journal of Medicine reports children born in August have had a higher chance of being diagnosed with ADHD. Children with ADHD have had trouble paying attention and controlling impulsive behaviors. Researchers found the condition is more common in states with a September 1st cutoff date for starting kindergarten. In 2016, more than 6 million kids, mostly boys, were diagnosed with ADHD. And the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has also issued a recall on numerous dog brands of food. The food has been recalled after concerns it may possess toxic levels of vitamin D. We talked to CSUN pet owners about healthy dog food.
Yeah, that is important because I would want to know if there's like food being recalled for dogs because of too much of like some sort of substance.
They're a really important part of our lives, so I think it's really good that they recall the food in order for them to, one, be healthy and eat right.
Brands like Nutrisca, Natural Life, Sunshine Mills, and Ahold are among the many companies facing the recall. Some of the brands contain 70 times the safe amount of vitamin D. The FDA says while vitamin D is a necessity for dogs, too much can lead to kidney failure or death. Vitamin D toxicity symptoms include vomiting, loss of appetite, increased urination, increased thirst, and weight loss. Dogs who have eaten any of these brands are urged to visit the veterinarian. And the FTC is investigating loot boxes. They say it could be a form of gambling and could lead to a problem with gambling with children. Demothy Tien is in Studio B with more.
Thanks, Justin. I'm here with Jesus Perez, who's a competitive gamer, mostly known for competing in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Thanks for coming, Jesus. You also play games like Overwatch and Fortnite, so you're pretty familiar with loot boxes. So can you tell me a little bit about what exactly they are?
First of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So essentially, loot boxes are just randomized boxes that you can get in-game that usually contain armor, weapons, sometimes like stickers, depending on the game that you're playing. All at randomized. You really have no idea what you're going to get.
And there's been a lot of debate about whether or not loot boxes are considered gambling, and about its effect on effect on the youth and problem gambling with kids. What are your thoughts on it?
I definitely do think they have a strong effect on kids in general, because they're always going to be after the fact that they want this certain item, you know? And most of the time it does cost money to get these loot boxes, so they're always going to be urging their parents and whatnot to get these loot boxes, to give them money, to buy them gift cards and all that, so that they can redeem in-game, so that they can at least get a shot of trying to get whatever it is they're trying to, you know, whatever item that is that they're looking for. So yeah, I believe that it does have a big effect. I would say it's more on the negative effect though, and I'm not on the same page of the whole loot boxes idea.
Okay, and the Entertainment Software Association's been pretty involved in this whole debate, specifically on the side against loot boxes being gambling. And one of their arguments was that you always get something out of it when you're purchasing a loot box. So what do you think about it?
I don't agree with their idea. Essentially what they're trying to say, or to better put it this way, is what I thought about is, imagine you go gambling, you're at a casino, you hit one of those slot machines, and it's pretty much saying, oh, the slot machine's always at least going to give you a penny, you know? You're never going to stop. You're going to keep going until you don't get the penny, you get the whatever amount of money you're looking for, you know? So, I mean, that's what I think. It's just like another excuse, in my opinion.
Okay, well, thank you for coming here, Jesus. Now let's go to PJ Shahamat with the latest in business news.
The U.S.-China trade deal is causing unrest on Wall Street. At last check, the Dow had dropped more than 700 points. Leaders of the U.S. and China have agreed to hold off on any additional tariffs on each other's goods. But Trump warned in a tweet this morning that the deal isn't final and the trade war may not be quite over. Apple, Amazon, and Alphabet stocks lost more than 3% each. Another successful launch for Elon Musk's space exploration program. SpaceX delivered 64 satellites into orbit on Monday, illustrating the growing demand for launching small satellites. According to Spaceflight, this marked one of the largest satellite ride-sharing missions ever launched and the most crowded single mission in U.S. history. This mission, titled SSOA, marked SpaceX's 19th launch of 2018. SpaceX's goal is to drastically reduce the cost of a launch by reusing their hardware. Now let's go back to Justin with the latest in sports.
Professional sports teams across America honored former President George H.W. Bush with a moment of silence. The 41st president was an avid sports fan and actually played college baseball at Yale. Former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger recalled a sledding incident he had with Bush and where they almost crashed into the First Lady.
I went to bed at night, I was exhausted, that's all I can tell you. But it was one day, it was snowing up there, and we had this toboggan, and he was trying to teach me how to slide that, because I was only used to sledding down with Austrian sleds, which you direct kind of with your feet. And so we went down totally out of control, and of course we crashed into Barbara Bush, who broke her leg then after that. So that's why he sent me this picture.
A big Texas A&M fan, Bush will be honored by all Aggies teams with helmet decals and patches. And a new record has been set in hockey. The Hershey Bears were beating the Binghamton Devils 6-3, and during a power play, Riley Barber scored on a rebound, and the annual teddy bear toss commenced. Fans hurled 34,798 stuffed animals on the ice, all to be donated to charity. Nathan Walker, who scored the later go-ahead goal, went back to his locker room and tossed his own giant teddy bear on the ice. The toss broke the previous record from 3 years ago by nearly 6,000 stuffed animals. Lou Williams and the Clippers traveled to New Orleans last night to face Anthony Davis and the New Orleans Pelicans. The Clippers were led by Player of the Month Tobias Harris. Harris poured in 27 points, going 10 of 16 from the floor. Here he is in the post, somehow getting this shot to fall over a flying Anthony Davis. The Clippers would gather as much as an 18-point lead, but the Pelicans would not be put away. Julius Randle dropped a career-high 37 points before falling out. New Orleans also got a boost from LA native Drew Holiday. The All-Star guard scored 32 points while also dishing out 14 assists. Davis returned to the free throw line late in the game for a chance to tie it, but the Brown missed the first free throw and would only manage to put New Orleans within one. The Clippers ran all the clock they could, but here Danilo Gallinari tries to ice the game, but is forced to kick to sweet Lou Williams. Lou Williams will go on to hit a long three, to hit long two to win the game. The Clippers are now 16-7 and remain in second place in what is proving to be an excruciatingly tight Western Conference. CSUN's men basketball traveled to Malibu last night. The Matadors secured their first road win of the season over the Pepperdine Waves, 90-83. Lamine Gian led the way again for the Matadors with 29 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Darius Brown II poured in 20 points while also registering 9 assists. The Matadors are now 2-5 on the season and will return home tomorrow to face Cal State San Marcos. Tip-off is at 7 o'clock in the Matadome. And in other hockey news, the NHL has announced that an expansion team will join the league in Seattle. The Board of Governors voted unanimously this morning, awarding a new franchise to the Emerald City. The team will join the league in the 2021-22 season as a 32nd team in the league. No announcements have been made yet on any potential divisional changes in the Western Conference. Now let's go back to PJ with entertainment news.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe has released its second trailer for the upcoming Captain Marvel movie. The trailer stars Brie Larson as Carol Danvers and shows the process of how she became Captain Marvel. It also gives viewers a glimpse of the Skrull enemy and showcases Captain Marvel's superhuman abilities.
I'm not gonna fight your war. I'm gonna end it.
The movie is set to release on March 8, 2019, and will be the MCU's first female-led superhero film. The remaining members of Queen have announced they will be going on tour again with Adam Lambert singing lead vocals. The band announced Monday that the tour will include 23 North American dates, and the tour will kick off on July 10th at Vancouver's Rogers Arena in Canada and run through August. Tickets go on sale to the general public on Friday. The tour follows the monstrous success of the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, which is set to become the biggest grossing music biopic of all time. Students are starting to stress with finals week around the corner. Matador News reporter Byron Gonzalez is in the newsroom with the latest on the Oasis Wellness Center and all it has to offer.
Well, thanks, PJ. Well, if you didn't know about the Oasis Wellness Center, well, you should. Apart from offering massage chairs and a place to take a nap, this Thursday, the Oasis Center is bringing in therapy dogs to help students with end-of-year stress. From 12:30 to 1:30, students can come in and pet some dogs, and students think this is a great idea.
This alleviates, stress, especially because sometimes you're just in that mindset where you're just blocked and you can't think of anything else. So it's an easy distraction, just to get your mind off of things.
I think dogs are like a great therapy entity, so to say. I mean, I have a dog, so whenever I'm stressed, I always like to hang out with her. So I think it'd be good for students, honestly.
It's actually pretty cool. I mean, who doesn't like dogs? And I mean, the Christmas card thing, that's pretty neat. I'm pretty sure everyone's in the holiday spirit doing that, So
keep an eye out for more de-stress events happening at the Oasis Center over the next week on their Instagram page at CSUN Oasis. Now let's go to Matador News weather reporter Veronica Barriga with an update on weather.
Thank you, guys. It's a sunny and cool day here in Northridge with temperatures remaining throughout the 60s and dropping to the lower 50s later tonight. Wednesday and Thursday will bring much needed rain showers to Southern California as the burn areas prepare for possible mudslides and flooding. Right now, it's 60 degrees in the valley. I'm Veronica Barriga. Back to you guys in the studio.
Former President Bush's dog, Sully, has captured the public's attention after arriving in the U.S. Capitol and lying in front of the president's casket. Sully is the service dog trained by America's Vet Dogs, an organization which trains and places dogs with military veterans, such as the former 41st president who fought in World War II. Sully joined the Bush family after the death of former First Lady Barbara Bush. Former President George W. Bush says the Bush family will miss Sully, but are happy to know he is now going to the home of a vet who needs him.
When Bill Clinton entered presidency, the man who had been in the White House before him wrote him a letter, as is traditional when the Oval Office changes hands. The letter George H.W. Bush wrote to Clinton was dated January 20th, 1993. The letter spoke of taking a loss with grace and learning to withstand the pressures of the office. Bush, who lost the 1992 election to Clinton, said just because you run against someone doesn't mean you have to be enemies. He said politics does not have to be mean and ugly. Clinton says he will forever be grateful for the friendship the two presidents formed despite their political differences. Thank you for watching Matador News. I'm Jide Akinpelu.
I'm Alan Cardoza.
I'm PJ Shahamat.
And I'm Justin B. Hill.